Commission in this hearing. The South African Human Rights Commission is an independent institution created by the Constitution. If you look at the institutions that are supporting constitutional democracy under Chapter 9, the South African Human Rights Commission is one of them. The important thing about this is the mandate of the South African Human Rights Commission, which is to monitor the promotion and protection of the rights in the Constitution, especially in the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. So as part of our monitoring, the right to education is one of those rights that we are monitoring. So this is one of those rights that comes with no conditions, unlike the other rights that we call access rights. We have observed over the time what has been happening around the country, and a lot of people think this is about Fuani. It's not. I want to state up front, it's not about Fuani. It's about it's about the actions that have now been with us related to protests for some time. And we looked at what has been happening in the past 5 years, and we also observed that the intensity was growing. And in most of what has been happening around protest action that has affected the children or learners has not always been about education as such. The content of the protests have largely been outside of what education is about, but have impacted on learners. As you know, some of the protests have been about a tarred road that needed to be made available to the residents in a particular part of our country, and some have not been happy with service delivery in their areas. They've wanted a mayor removed, and some people have wanted water, but it's been a variety of things. But in the end, what happens is that children are then prevented from going to school. They are unable to go to school, and in many cases recently, the schools themselves get banned. And when the protest is over, there's nowhere for the children to get back to school. Now, what we want to highlight is that children have a right to basic education. And we also want to say also upfront that this hearing is not about protest. It's we as the South African Human Rights Commission acknowledge, accept, and respect the fact that people have a right to assemble, people have a right to demonstrate, people have a right to picket, they have a right to write petitions which institutions and government organs receive all the time. That is their right. And as you know, usually all these are clubbed together as the right to protest. So we are not against that at all. People have that right, and they should exercise that right whenever they feel it is necessary to do so. And this is part of their own way of exercising their freedom of expression. What we want to look at is what then happens when people are protesting, and the nature of the protest is such that it impacts negatively on the right of learners to access their education. And we want also to be able to listen to a variety of stakeholders who have been invited here in order to just get a sense of how children can be protected during those times when people are protesting about one thing or the other. And that protection is about them continuing to enjoy their rights while the other people are also exercising their own rights. We would want to know, for instance, what protections are there for the children, what happens in such cases, and what the various organs of state have to do under the circumstances. Are they doing it? And what about the obligations that we have? We as a country have signed up to regional and international obligations besides our own legal framework that we have in this country. Are we upholding that? And those are some of the things that we would be wanting to find out. But also we would want to be able to share experiences, how other people have dealt with those situations, what has worked, what hasn't worked. We would also want to know from the people that have been involved, both as duty bearers, as in government, what it is they've learned over time. As I said to you, we are looking at a period of 5 years. Have there been any lessons learned, and how have those lessons been applied to what is happening now? So in other words, if this were to happen in future, how would the reaction be? Would it be any better because we have seen this happen before and we have learned something from it? Or is it going to continue the way that it has? And also we would want to know, how rapidly do people respond to these situations when they start to happen? Are we adequately addressing them? So it's not about a lot of things, and I know that some people might want to know, but why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you looking at that? We do all those other things. We look at issues around water and sanitation. The Commission had hearings throughout the country looking at issues of water and sanitation. We do that. And we know that some of the service delivery protests are around those issues. It's just that this is not what we are doing now. We have looked at issues of health, in the various provinces, access to health, emergency services, the availability of those. So we do all those things. So at any point in time, we deal with a particular issue. And the issue at hand now is how we protect children and ensure that they continue to enjoy the right to education when there are all these protests. And protect